Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for holding this hearing, and thank you to the GAO witnesses for being here to share with us your important oversight work. This FAFSA situation has been a source of great stress and anxiety, and has resulted in the denial of opportunity for many of my constituents and thousands of young people and their families across the country. And it comes in the context of an already sort of nerve-wracking process, with the cost of higher education continuing to go up and up, and with applying for college just sort of an inherently sort of daunting process for a lot of students. The last thing that 17, 18-year-olds need when they're going through this is to have this whole wrench thrown in the system, where the form they need for that financial aid doesn't get released on time, doesn't get processed properly, their status is unclear, they try to call for help and nothing happens. And it's worse given that the agency here had strict instructions from Congress with the FAFSA Simplification Act, is we wanted to make the process simpler, and instead they made it a lot more complicated, or at least a lot more complicated to navigate from the perspective of the user. It really is just a stunning example of a government bureaucracy failing to perform relatively, modest tasks to the detriment of so many Americans. I mean, you look at the impact of this. We had 432,000 fewer people file FAFSAs this year than last year. So what does that mean? Is they're denied access to financial aid, Pell Grants, what they need to open the doors of opportunity. This is disproportionately, by the way, the drop came in low-income communities. Maybe some young people who would be the first person in their family to go to college denied that opportunity because the government couldn't provide them with a form in order to get the assistance that they need to actually go to school. So you can be sure that this failure to perform the most sort of what should be routine of tasks by the agency has widened the opportunity gap that exists in this country, has widened achievement gaps. So my question, I guess, is you've provided very compelling testimony and documented in your report all of the defects, and there are 55 defects, dozen of them went undetected, and the myriad other problems that plagued this rollout and continues to plague us now with yet another delay for this year. So how does this happen? How do we, what lesson do we draw from this in terms of how we can systematically reform not just this bureaucracy, but maybe others, so that they are more capable of handling tasks that for many in the private sector, it would be fairly routine?
I think on the technical side with the development, there's best practices out there that are supposed to be given good practices to oversee the development, make sure that the actual functionality is meeting the requirements of the system, that it's doing what it's supposed to, it's performing the way it's supposed to, and those should be followed. I know it's difficult if there are delays or things aren't going the way they're supposed to, but it's important that those practices are followed, but it's also equally as important that leadership is involved in the major decisions that are being made and are kept in the loop on how such large-scale projects are going.
Thank you.
I would also add that it's important to talk with students in colleges and let them know what's happening. It's unconscionable that 4 million calls went unanswered when students were struggling.
Thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that. It is incredibly frustrating for so many families, but I'm thankful to Chairman Owens and as well as Chairwoman Fox for their leadership in holding this department to account. Frankly, I think the department owes many people in this country an apology, and we're going to be doing everything we can, and certainly I will be, to get this process back on track so that we can provide students and families a greater measure of certainty going into this next year. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. I'd like to go ahead now and recognize Ms. Wilson for her closing remarks.